Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative Headline News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Here are today's headlines. Former Energy Minister Stuart Young, is defending the PNM's restructuring of Atlantic LNG, asserting that his historic 2023 agreement is driving higher state revenues without taxpayer costs, despite critics warning of underlying natural gas production declines. Now, the thing about it is he's partially correct. They said they laid the foundation. Give Jackie jacket. USA people just like to be extremists, just like the PNM Patriots. And they wouldn't admit it. He or whoever it was, he's taking the credit for it. So he laid the foundation. But the problem, as I said in my YouTube short just now, the PNM can't actually build a proper house upon a foundation because they're too corrupt and incompetent. And that is the problem. The foundation itself will be weak by as well. That's the problem. They have set so many different foundations in the past and they've never been able to build upon it. Over in Jamaica, municipal authorities and tax administration Jamaica have launched a targeted 3-day operation and halfway tree to collect $162 million in delinquent property taxes and trade fees. Governments always going after people for money, but when they owe, you gotta wait years sometimes. And in regional security news, U.S. Central Command has deployed the aircraft carrier USS George Washington to the Middle East, taking over operational duties from the long-standing USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group. Details in the news up next. Former Energy Minister Stuart Young is defending the PNM's record on the restructuring of Atlantic LNG, arguing that the agreement completed in December 2023 is directly responsible for higher revenues now being earned by the NGC and the state. Young highlighted that the restructuring, which was conceived as a PNM policy initiative in 2018 and finalized after 5 years of extensive negotiations with energy giants BP and Shell, represented a globally unprecedented achievement for the energy sector. As I said in the headlines, he's correct to an extent, right? The thing about it is PNM also benefited from a lot of plans and policies that started under the UNC between 2010 to 2015, and they don't ever admit it. So the UNC, of course, playing the same tit-for-tat games, they wouldn't admit certain things as well, but I will do it. Young is right, but to an extent. And why? Because the PNM has proven for decades upon decades that they have certain plans that are nice, that are good plans, but they could never actually bring it into reality because it's too much of corruption and incompetence. They just don't know how to manage a government properly and an economy properly to be able to get anything done to benefit the citizens of the nation. The only people that end up benefiting are themselves, their friends and families and financiers. He emphasized that the historic deal secured 3 financial advantages for the country: improved gas pricing structures tied to international indices, a new 10% shareholding across all Atlantic LNG operations, and an increase in the number of LNG cargoes allocated for NGC to sell. Now, of course, from what I heard, what he's saying is true. So, as I said before, give credit when credit is due, even to Zami Young. Young reiterated that the financial boosts currently being enjoyed by the state and NGC are the exact intended results of the previous administration's long-term policy decisions, which successfully positioned Trinidad and Tobago to maximize its energy earnings. He claimed full credit for establishing the legal and commercial architecture of the deal, taking pride in securing a larger financial share for the country without any additional cost to taxpayers. That part I don't believe at all. That's something real funny, dog. That's something real funny. However, industry analysts and political opposition figures point out that Young's commentary leaves out critical geopolitical context and oversimplifies the country's broader energy realities. While the restructured commercial framework did improve Trinidad's revenue margins, natural gas production locally has continued to experience persistent declines, meaning the country is earning a larger percentage of a shrinking overall volume. Furthermore, the long-term viability of keeping Atlantic LNG supplied relies heavily on cross-border initiatives like Venezuela's Dragon gas field, which of course the PNM was pushing for as well. So you have to give credit once again when credit is due. The only problem is that the mighty moving Ghanaian coal pot bicycle, no ham, no macaroni pie, whole strain, tight near belt PNM, they were not waiting for the US to give the approval. They were going and meeting all the time. Well, not all the time, but meeting often. Even during the 2019, not 2019, but 2020 C19 period, meeting with people to talk about COVID. Yeah, COVID. Delcy boy and PNM. But anyhow, and the problem was, if the United States of America suspected that we were going to sign any deal with Venezuela without their approval, we could have ended up facing sanctions. And that's, once again, that's the problem with the PNM. They don't know how to perform properly as a government. They just don't. They don't know how to function. That's the proper word I was looking for. They don't know how to function properly as a government. They just don't. They just don't. Furthermore, the long-term viability of keeping Atlantic LNG supplied relies heavily on cross-border initiatives like Venezuela's Dragon gas field, a plan strictly dependent on sanctioned waivers granted by the United States Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC. We all know that. This would have never materialized if Trinidad wasn't restoring and rebuilding a good relationship with America. Without diplomatic efforts to secure and maintain those mandatory U.S. licenses, the underlying deals driving these future revenues would remain non-viable under international sanctions. My response, maybe it's time for both party supporters to give credit to the PNM and UNC for the success of these energy deals. Give both parties credit, that's all. PNM will never do that though. They want to give themselves the full credit. The problem with PNM is that they are extremely incompetent, corrupt, and lack respect for our American allies, whom we need in order to revive TNT's dying energy sector. We need them. They don't need us. We need them. Matter of fact, I want an American investor to come and take over the refinery too. The UNC's vision of reopening our refinery and the steel plant will ensure that foreign revenue significantly increases people, which will stimulate our nation's economy. When the middle class purchasing power is restored, businesses will prosper and expand again. So yes, give PNM credit when it's due, but their overall style of governance since the days of Eric Williams has been a disaster. 2 oil booms, you know, people. 2 oil booms, 70s and 80s. And yet by 86, Trinidad and Tobago was bankrupt because of the mighty morphin Ghanaian coal pot bicycle. No ham, no macaroni pie. Whole strain tight near belt. Tribal PNM.
Trinidad and Tobago weather report for Friday, August 21, 2026. Friday, August 21, 2026 in Trinidad and Tobago will bring variably cloudy and breezy conditions with maximum daytime temperatures reaching around 31 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius and dipping to an overnight low of 24 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. The day features periods of sunshine interrupted by scattered showers according to the official Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service outlook. There remains a low 20% to 30% chance of a localized heavy shower or afternoon thunderstorm primarily favoring western parts of Trinidad and hilly areas. In the event of a heavy downpour, gusty winds and brief street flooding are possible. Breezy conditions are expected out of the east to northeast to east to southeast at speeds of 15 to 35 km per hour. Seas will remain slight to moderate in open waters with waves near 1.5 meters and below 1.0 meter in sheltered areas.
Regional news now. The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation and Tax Administration Jamaica are stepping up efforts to recover millions of dollars in outstanding property taxes and property tax. I hate that. That's one thing I'm glad that we no longer have here in Trinidad and Tobago. And business-related fees for commercial operators across halfway tree. You own your own property, you own your own land and still have to be paying a rent fee, in other words. That is utter nonsense, total utter nonsense. Officials revealed that 432 properties in the area owe a total of $162 million in property tax arrears, dating back 6 years, with 151 business properties accounting for 96 million of that debt. Additionally, 195 registered commercial entities owe an estimated 48 million in trade license fees, while separate compliance issues persist regarding local sign and billboard permits. You know that is the only agenda of the Andrew Holness government in this new term, tax and collection of taxes. Now, of course, taxes are important to an extent, but not property tax. I don't agree with property taxes at all. And then, as I said earlier on, I can't remember if it's this channel or the other channel, that governments love to even arrest people and imprison people for failing to pay their taxes and so forth. But sometimes the state owes citizens and companies millions of dollars for years upon years, and all they tell you is to hold strain. Running from August 20th to August 22nd, the targeted initiative divides the commercial district into 3 operational zones where joint teams are deploying directly to storefronts to review accounts, identify arrears, and offer immediate guidance or threaten them and tell them, hey, we go jail here, you know. To streamline payments and registration, a temporary customer service hub has been set up at the Constant Spring Arcade to assist business owners on site. Kingston Mayor Andrew Swaby stressed that collecting these delinquent funds is vital to sustaining municipal services. Yeah, that's how they want to be able to allocate or to be able to balance your budget, the fiscal budget. And directly funding localized drain cleaning. Yeah, but people still complaining about those things being neglected. Lies, from governments, lies. Road repairs, street lighting, and public space maintenance throughout the parish. Well, when you collect that money, make sure and at least really use it. Let the people see that it is being used for the right purpose. Do that. But once again, the governments believe that they are the government leaders. They believe they are above the law. So they will collect all that money and then it will just disappear into thin air. Oops! I don't know what happened. A glitch. International news now. U.S. Central Command has released new imagery of the aircraft carrier USS George Washington operating in the Middle East following its arrival in the theater. The warship enters the region to relieve the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has maintained a continuous presence for over 8 months, a real long boy, to enforce maritime security and conduct operations amid ongoing defense measures against Iran. Official military photos show flight deck crews actively conducting operations on the deck of the Nimitz supercarrier as it transits the strategic waters of the Arabian Sea. The arrival of the George Washington Carrier Strike Group marks a key operational rotation with CENTCOM's area of responsibility, which spans 21 nations across the Middle East and Central and South Asia. The deployment brings fresh naval air power to the region at a time of heightened security concerns, providing operational relief to the crew of the long-deployed Abraham Lincoln. 8 months. Ow. Pentagon officials emphasize that the planned rotation ensures the U.S. Navy maintains uninterrupted strategic deterrence and operational readiness along vital international shipping lanes. 1 year after a massacre in southern Syria's Souida province, the Druze, I was talking about them recently. The Druze community remains cut off from the rest of the country and deeply disillusioned about the chances for reconciliation, according to the findings cited by the UN News Center. The Druze that were being exterminated by the Syrian jihadists, a lot of terrorist groups. Now that is what you call genocide. Up to now, I can't remember hearing CNC3 or any mainstream media in Trinidad and Tobago reporting about the massacre that was taking place in Syria. The Druze were being exterminated, and it is the Jews, Jews, the Israelis who intervened and saved the Druze, D-R-U-Z-E. Families of the victims marked the anniversary amid ongoing grief and administrative obstacles from the Damascus authorities, who have been accused of delaying humanitarian aid and attempting to erase traces of the massacre. Yeah, of course. And mainstream media telling you, we'll never let you know this, you know. You'll only hear about this on my channel. Or like channels like Amra Safati and so forth. Meanwhile, journalists covering sectarian violence in Syria continue to face severe risks. Though German journalist Eva Maria Michelmann was freed after 5 months in detention, as reported by Ynet News. Wonderful Syria, you know that the president of Syria, Al-Jalani, he has his new name now, but it's Al-Jalani, a wanted man that had a huge bounty on him. He's now the president of Syria. And Trump flatters him. Oh, I like him. He's nice. He's nice. A terrorist, you know. A wanted terrorist is now nice just because he put on a suit, as Amar Safati said. A terrorist just put on a suit and now he's just president. Madness is gladness, people. Madness is gladness.
Psalm 39, 1-4. I said to myself, I will watch my ways and keep my tongue from sin. I will put a muzzle on my mouth as long as the wicked are in my presence. So I remained utterly silent, not even speaking of good things, but my anguish increased. My heart grew hot within me. While I meditated, the fire burned, and then I spoke with my tongue. Show me, Lord, my life's end in the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's headline news. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.